everyone. Today we are going to learn about the Battle of Jutland and how it affected the war in Europe, as well as why this battle was necessary for British to keep winning the war in France. Before we get into further detail, Matthew here will summarize what happened in the Battle of Jutland for you.
On May 31st, 1916, the Battle of Jutland, a sea/ship war between the British Navy and the German Navy began. This battle took place off the coast of Denmark's Jutland Peninsula. It was the only full-scale battle to be fought by battleships in World War I. The battle started in the afternoon when a German boat sunk a British cruiser, killing about 1,000 soldiers. Both sides then opened fire on each other. This brutal fight ended on June 1st, 1916. Though it seemed like 2 months, the most major part of the battle lasted only 2 days. Overall, the British lost a total of 14 ships and 6,784 men, while the Germans lost only 11 ships and 3,039 men.
Now that you have a quick overview on what this battle was about, me and Alicia will explain how the battle was necessary for the British to keep winning the war in France. So just how did the British Navy maintain the German Navy under control? What was their policy? The British always wanted to have double the amount of ships and armed forces than Germany, or the next two largest navies, as well as much larger ships. This was also called the two-power standard. The act gave the Navy an extra £20 million to build 10 battleships, 38 cruisers, 18 torpedo boats, and 4 gunboats. This could concern the German Navy and make it harder for them to win. This then brings us to the question, why was the Battle of Jutland important for the British fleet in order to maintain control of the German surface ships from entering the Atlantic? Alicia shall explain.
As this trade route was blocked, the Germans on land and sea suffered from malnutrition, starvation because they couldn't transport food, and the lack of much-needed raw materials to help fight against the total war. Bringing such hardships on the Germans caused them to become weaker, and as a result, the British had a better chance at winning the war over in France. They also found other ways to keep Germans out of the Atlantic, such as conveying submarine destroyers, special tactics, etc. If the British did not win the Battle of Jutland, then the German fleet ships could have re-established open trade in the Atlantic and destroyed all Britain's blockade. This without Britain being able to transport troops, supplies, and guns into the main battle site in France. It would greatly increase the ability for the Germans to take over France and possibly all of Europe.
Now that you know about how clever the Britons were and how they won, let's ask the question, were Germans as fearsome as most Navy captains feared? And how did they force the Americans into the war? Matthew will answer.
As we just learned during the World War I, the English and the Germans attempted to block each other's trade routes. The Germans, however, also built U-boats as a way to sneakily cruise through the water of the Atlantic and sink enemy ships. The Germans could not deny that the British had a much larger navy than them, so they decided to go underwater to defeat the large English navy. These powerful submarines did not only take down military boats, but also sunk civilian ships, which especially angered the Allies. During the course of World War I, German U-boats sank about 5,000 ships carrying 13 million tons of cargo, making them one of the most feared weapons of World War I. That being said, as many of you know, the Americans announced that they would not be participating in World War I. But no matter how much they tried to stay out of it, the Germans somehow kept sinking their ships for trade and travel. The 3 main ones that got them into the war was when, in 1915, the Germans accidentally sunk an American merchant ship carrying wheat to England. Then, the same year in May, the Germans sunk the passenger ship, the Lusitania, killing 128 Americans. This was when the American public were starting to turn against the Germans. Fast forward 2 years, and Germany yet again sunk another American ship, which was the final straw. The Americans were outraged and had enough, so they decided to join World War I. As a result, U-boats were one of the main reasons why the United States joined the war and helped it end quicker.
So we explained the key parts to this battle, and some of you may be wondering, who really did win this battle? Well, it said in our presentation that the British won, but many Germans would claim that they won the battle since they sunk more British ship and men. Though it is fair to say that the British may have won because they have taken down enough German ships that their fleet was no longer seaworthy, and in fact, the German fleet could never sail the seas again for the rest of World War I. The British, on the other hand, still had a strong navy and that was able to be used as an effective weapon, if needed, for the rest of World War I. Lastly, many like to argue whether or not the Battle of Jutland was the battle that ended the war. Based on what my group and I could research, we believe it didn't necessarily put a stop to World War I because Jutland ended in June 1916, while World War I ended in November 1918. What we do agree on is that it was very important in how the rest of the war would play out. The battle allowed the British to keep their blockade, keeping valuable war shipments / food out of Germany's hands, and eventually forcing them to surrender as their country was falling into famine and protests against the war. In conclusion, the Battle of Jutland is known as the last major battle fought mainly by battleships in world history. It did not exactly have any side claiming total victory, but it did certainly cause the Germans to use unrestricted marine warfare that eventually brought the Americans into World War I.